Senate will come to order. All those not having privilege of the floor will please vacate the chamber. Those in the gallery and those on the floor will please rise. We're led in prayer by Father Don Higgs of the Sacred Heart Co-Cathedral in Charleston, West Virginia. Please remain standing after the prayer as the senator from Summers leads us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. Father Higgs.
Let us pray. Almighty God, you have blessed our state with great beauty. Even more so, you have blessed our state with good and generous people. We first give you thanksgiving and praise. We are truly wise in remembering that you are the source of all that is good and true. Gracious God, we ask you to bless these public servants as they begin their day in service to the people of West Virginia and beyond. May they seek your wisdom to guide them and give them courage to make decisions that advance the common good. May they stand for the truth that comes from you. May their encounters with each other be open and respectful. Bless the work of their minds, hands, and hearts. Protect them under your heavenly care. We ask all of this in your most holy name. Amen.
Thank you, Father. Senator from Summers.
With those on the floor and our guests in the gallery, please join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Reading of the Journal.
West Virginia Legislature Senate Journal, January 31st, 2022. The Senate met at 11:02 a.m. Senator Blair, Mr. President, in the chair.
Senator from Harrison requests unanimous consent that further reading of the Journal be dispensed with and the Journal be approved. Is there objection? Chair hears none. Reading of the Journal is further dispensed with and the Journal is approved. Introduction to guest. On behalf of the Senate, it is my pleasure to welcome the honorary pages for the day. Please stand and be recognized as your name is called. As guests of the Senator from Boone, Kaylee Welch, Lincoln Burnside, and Lyric Spear. And guests is the Senior Senator from the 8th, Andrew Vogelar. Would the Senate please make them feel welcome? Further introduction, Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senate, it is your pleasure and mine to introduce our Doctor of the Day. In the rear of the chamber, we have Dr. John Apgar. He's a third-year family medicine resident from Marshall University. We were just sharing a story because his grandfather, who was also a primary care doc in Huntington, West Virginia, actually was one of the docs that wrote me a letter of recommendation to help me get in medical school. So, Dr. Apgar, appreciate you here, and let's Senate give you a warm welcome.
Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. We've got a group here in the rear chamber that is the West Virginia Horse Coalition that's visiting the Capitol here today. They just announced this new organization this morning. We're glad to have them. The coalition represents horse owners, trainers, riders, rodeo riders, small businesses, veterinarians, advocacy groups, farmers, and ancillary service providers. They've all set up an aggressive plan to promote and protect the equine industry here in the state. We have representation today from the Horse Breeders Association, the Quarter Horse Association, and there are several young riders up there, along with parents of Tyler Mountain Stables from my district and the Junior Center from 17th. They're here with other members across the state. If you guys wouldn't mind standing, let the Senate give you a warm welcome.
Senator from Wyoming.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to introduce some folks from Wyoming County and ask the Senate to welcome them here. We have 23 students from Wyoming County, all 8th graders, participating in Youth in Government, and their chaperones are Lauren Manning, Lisa Collins, Gwen Lyons, and Jeremy Works. If they would all stand, please. Let's give them a big hand.
Senator from Boone.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of the Senator from Logan, we're very pleased to recognize the chaperones of our pages today from Scott and Sherman, Jeremy Thompson and Neil Burnside. If they would stand, the Senate give them a warm welcome.
Senator from Wetzel.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of myself and the Senator from Marshall, we have with us the Executive Director of the West Virginia Route 2 Interstate 68 Authority, Mr. Bob Miller. He's in the gallery here to my right.
Senator from Mason.
Mr. President, on behalf of the senior senator from the 4th District and myself, in the North Gallery, we have some members of our Capital Connection and pastors from District 4, Pastor Bo Burgess and Andrew Parker from Jordan Baptist Church in Galplis Ferry, and Pastor Justin Simmons from Faith Baptist in Spencer, West Virginia. If members would please make them feel welcome.
Are there further introductions? Senior Senator from the 8th.
Thank you, Mr. President. On your behalf and the junior senator from the 8th behalf, we have seated with us today in the President's Gallery one of our chaperones for our page today. If Glenn Vogler would stand, would the Senate make him welcome, please?
Further introductions. Pursuant to special rule of order adopted on January the 18th, 2022, the chair announces that the senator from Jefferson has been approved to vote by proxy and has designated the senior senator from the 17th to vote on her behalf. Communications from the House.
The Clerk of the House announced the passage by that body of House Bill 2631, provide for West Virginia DNR officers to be able to work off duty.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Natural Resources and then to the Committee on the Judiciary.
House Bill 2817, Donated Drug Repository Program.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources.
House Bill 4048, West Virginia Keep, Bear, and Drive with Arms Act.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
House Bill 4097 to prohibit non-public funding sources for election administration and related expenses without prior written approval by the State Election Commission.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4257, require visitation immediately following a procedure in a healthcare facility.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4263, prohibit the practice of white bagging.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources.
House Bill 4299 to prohibit the intentional interference with election processes and creating associated criminal penalties.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4324 to update collaborative pharmacy practice agreements.
Message will be received and the bill will be referred to the Committee on Health and Human Resources. Communications from the Executive.
There are none.
Reports from standing committees.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration Senate Bill 7 relating to damages for medical monitoring and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Charles S. Trump IV, Chair.
The report be received.
Your Committee on Natural Resources has had under consideration Senate Bill 458, establishing legal right to title of substances derived from drainage on mined lands, and reports back a committee substitute for same, with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass, but under the original double committee reference, first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary. Respectfully submitted, Bill Hamilton, Chair.
Report be received, and under the original double committee reference, the bill will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Natural Resources has had under consideration Senate Bill 481 relating to Adopt a Stream program and reports back a committee substitute for same with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass. Respectfully submitted, Bill Hamilton, Chair.
The report be received. Reports from select committees.
There are none.
Introduction of bills. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent that Senate Bill 515 through Senate Bill 553 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system.
Senior Senator from the 17th requests unanimous consent that Senate Bills 515 through Senate Bills 553 be considered introduced, read by their titles, and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the chamber automation system. Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. Motions. Resolutions.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 27 by Senators Smith and Seipolt, naming the U.S. Army Staff Sergeant Harold William Schmidl Memorial Bridge.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over one day.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 28 by Senators Woodrum, Boley, Carnes, Maynard, Phillips, Seipolt, Takubo, Tarr, and Weld, naming the U.S. Army Private Garland Lee Loudermilk Memorial Bridge.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolution will lie over one day.
Senate Resolution 16 by Senator Roberts, designating February 2nd, 2022 as Jan Lily Stewart Disability Advocacy Day.
Under the rules of the Senate, the resolutions will lie over one day. Now, motions, petitions.
There are none.
Unfinished business.
Senate Concurrent Resolution 26, naming the U.S. Army Tech 5 William B. Thurman King Memorial Bridge.
Resolution will be referred to the Committee on Transportation and Infrastructure. Bills on third reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 5, creating West Virginia Unmanned Aircraft Systems Advisory Council. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Mercer.
Thank you, Mr. President. The unmanned aerial vehicle industry is projected to be one of the fastest growing industries in coming years. The federal government has committed a very high priority to it, and we believe that West Virginia is the ideal place to grow this industry. We have all the natural resources and other resources necessary to be ideally suited for this industry. However, in last year's ranking by the Mercatus Center, West Virginia ranked only number 41. Senate Bill 5 is aimed to move us up in the rankings, hopefully to number 1 instead of number 41. And therefore, we can take advantage of this growing industry in future years. I'll answer questions, but I urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor will vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Senior Senator from the 17th, how does the Senator from Jefferson vote?
Thank you, Mr. President. The Senator from Jefferson votes yea.
Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 439, adopting Revised Uniform Athlete Agents Act of 2015. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage to bill. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 439 is one of 3 bills that we have on third reading today, which come to us as model laws from the Commission on Uniform State Laws. This one addresses athletic agents, sports agents. West Virginia adopted a Uniform Sport Agents Act many years ago. The bill before us contains updates to the Uniform Act, which are being considered in states throughout the country. The bill amends the existing article, and it's Article 39 in Chapter 30, the Uniform Athlete Agents Act. Sections 1 through 21 in that article are amended. And the purpose of the bill is to update the law to expand the definition of athlete agents. It has definitions in it of athlete agents, athletes. It requires registration. It provides for reciprocity for people who are registered as sports agents across state lines among states which have adopted the act or similar act. It provides penalties for people who violate the law and take actions that are impermissible. The idea behind the act is that students and institutions have important interests to protect. Sadly, there has been in this country, I don't know about West Virginia so much, but there's been in this country a history of unscrupulous people taking advantage of students, particularly students who have athletic prowess, and what can happen if people don't know what they're doing or don't act professionally is it could cost a student his or her eligibility to compete in college sports. It could cost an institution of higher education the ability to be eligible to compete in bowl games. In some cases, schools have had to forfeit wins, victories they've had on the field or in the gym because they've played athletes who weren't eligible to play because the athletes have been involved with some of these unscrupulous people. So, Mr. President, that's a general summary of the act. I won't go through each of the 20 or so sections that are amended in the act, but I'd be happy to try to answer any questions if members have any. Otherwise, I urge passage of the bill. I should say the bill comes to us from our Commission on Uniform State Laws, and this bill was examined and scrutinized by our interim committee on interstate cooperation under the capable and dedicated leadership of its chairman, the senator from Summers. I'd be happy to try to answer questions. Otherwise, I urge passage.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Senior Senator from the 17th House, the Senator from Jefferson, vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. The senator from Jefferson votes yea.
Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 33 yeas, 1 nay, 0 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present voting having voted in affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 440, establishing Uniform Commercial Real Estate Receivership Act. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Bill 440 is the second among the three bills related that come to us from the Commission on Uniform State Laws that we're going to consider on the floor of the Senate today. This one would enact the Uniform Commercial Real Estate Receivership Act, and it'd be a whole new article in the code if it becomes law. It goes in as Article 20 in Chapter 55 of the code, and it contains 27 sections, all new code. We don't have, what we have in our law now is we have a statute in Chapter 55 that authorizes a court to appoint a receiver in the case of a commercial building or property, but there's very little in our code now that fleshes out or explains what the receiver's authorities are, what the receiver's responsibilities are, and that's what this bill is an attempt to do as model legislation that's being considered, has been adopted in some states already and is being considered in others. There's an extensive set of definitions of terms used in the Act. That's in Section 2. It provides for notice and a hearing. There are exclusions. Section 5 relates to the power of the court. Section 6 allows for the appointment of a receiver. There is a section regarding to disqualification of a person to serve as receiver. Section 8 of the Act addresses bond or security that would have to be appointed, paid, or posted by someone appointed as receiver in such a circumstance. Section 9 gives the the receiver who's appointed by the court the status of a lien creditor as to the asset under receivership. It addresses security agreements, collections, and turnover of monies, receivership property. Just for those who may be interested, oftentimes a receiver is useful or appropriate for appointment by a court in a circumstance where you have a building that has multiple tenants, commercial tenants, and it happens sometimes that the owner of the building is, not paying the mortgage payments or taxes or other expenses of the building while the tenants are paying rent to that person. The court has the authority upon a petition and a hearing, a finding, to appoint somebody to stand in as receiver and manage that, and ultimately potentially to sell the asset if that's required. This bill will create, in our statutory law, good guidance for anybody who's serving in that capacity. It will be beneficial in that it's similar to legislation that's been adopted by other states, and in that sense, familiar to lenders who have to sometimes ask to put properties, or for a court to put properties into receivership. Be happy to try to answer questions, Mr. President. Otherwise, I urge the bill's passage.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Senior Senator from the 17th House, the Senator from Jefferson, vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. The senator from Jefferson votes yea.
Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine and ascertain the results on this question. 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent and not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 450, updating definitions of West Virginia Personal Income Tax Act. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is the annual personal income tax update bill. Passing this bill will keep our code here in West Virginia consistent with federal law. The only major change in the code was the dates. There are no other substantive changes. Urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Senior Senator from the 17th House, the Senator from Jefferson, vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. The senator from Jefferson votes yea.
Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results on this question. 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent and not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Senior Senator from the 17th moves that the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on the passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question, 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than two-thirds of those elected to the Senate having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed Senate Bill 451, updating definitions of West Virginia Corporation Net Income Tax Act. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senior Senator from the 4th.
Mr. President, this is just like the bill we just did, except for corporate net income tax. All it does is change the dates and brings West Virginia code consistent with federal law. Urge passage of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea. Those opposed will vote nay. The clerk shall prepare the machine. Senior Senator from the 17th House, the Senator from Jefferson, vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. The senator from Jefferson votes yea.
Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the results. On this question, 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. Senior Senator from the 17th. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on passage of the bill be used to make it so effective.
Senior Senator from the 17th moves that the bill be made effective from passage and request unanimous consent that the roll call used on the passage of the bill be used to make it so effective. Is there objection? Chair hears none. On this question, 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than two-thirds of those elected to the Senate having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill effective from passage. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 452, permitting civil remedies for unauthorized disclosure of intimate images. Third reading of the bill.
Question is on passage of the bill. Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. The committee substitute for Senate Bill 452 is the third of the three bills that we're going to vote upon this morning that are recommended to the state of West Virginia by the Commission on Uniform State Laws. And I'll say again at the outset, in case I forget, that it has reached the floor of the Senate going through normal committee process here, but also the work during the interim period by the Committee on Interstate Cooperation chaired by the senator from Summers County. This bill addresses the publication, disclosure of intimate images, and it would create a new article in our code. Now, in the committee substitute, you'll note it's designated as Article 20 of Chapter 55, which is the designation I just mentioned is given to the Uniform Receivership Act. There is no Article 20 in our code now, and what I'm told by counsel is that among the many things that our clerk's office does behind the curtain is if both acts pass, then they would renumber this one as Article 21, so we don't have two different articles, two different sets of statutes that have the same article. A few years ago, Mr. President, we passed a bill making it a criminal offense for people to post on the internet without consent of the person depicted naked. Essentially, we're talking about naked pictures of individuals. We made it a crime to do that to somebody. This bill touches upon the same subject, but what it does is it creates a civil action. It's the article is civil remedies for unauthorized disclosure of intimate images. So it would be a new article. It has 10 different sections within the article. There's a short title, that's Section 1. Section 2 is a section that contains definitions of terms that are used, and those include definition of child, consent, depicted individual, disclosure, harm, identifiable individual. There are others. I won't read all the terms that are defined, but it defines the terms that are used in the act. And then Section 3 creates a civil action. It allows a person who's had, without his or her consent, naked pictures of him or her posted on the internet, or it allows that person to file a lawsuit against the person that did it. Creates a cause of action. You can sue for damages. There are penalties provided for in the act. It creates exceptions that are appropriate, and it requires that the act is to be construed with the Communications Decency Act of 1996. That's a federal act, so it's to be read in conjunction with that. The bill provides for a statute of limitations for those actions. There's a section delineating the remedies that a person could receive from court upon the filing of such a suit. Mr. President, that's a summary of it. I won't go through it in enormous detail section by section. I will add as just, a comment that it is, I will say it's sad that we have to have laws to address this sort of thing, but we must. And in our society, the way it is now, this bill will create some recourse for people who've been victimized by another person's conduct described in the bill. Be happy to try to answer questions. Otherwise, I urge the bill's passage.
Question is on passage of the bill. Is there discussion? Senator from Cabell.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you to the Judiciary Chair for bringing this to the floor. I'll direct a few comments, and they've just left, to the young people that were here from another county. This is, once again, West Virginia is in the forefront of protecting our victims of sexual exploitation and sexual misconduct. And the bill applies to young people as well as adults. A lot of harm can be done with these images that are displayed. Teen suicide has been correlated to this issue. So I'll conclude my remarks by saying that to everyone that's listening, if the answer is not a clear yes, the answer is no. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion? Senator from Boone.
Thank you, Mr. President. Would the chairman yield just for
Will the chair yield? The senator yields.
The way this is written, it says punitive damages as allowed under the law of this state other than this article. Can you clarify that for me, please? Punitive damages are allowed, right?
Punitive damages are allowed under this article to the extent that they're allowed under state law. As my friend from Boone will remember, I want to say 4 or 5 years ago, the legislature passed a law tying punitive damages to actual compensatory damages, and there's a cap. There's a cap in our general law on punitive damages. I want to say that it was 4 times the actual compensatory damages or a number, and my memory is, I think it was $400,000 as a maximum cap on punitive damages, irrespective of the multiplier. But the idea is that in a case that is an intentional publication or disclosure of the type prohibited by this act, punitive damages may be awarded.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Further discussion? If not, the question for the Senate is, shall the bill pass? All those in favor vote yea, those opposed will vote nay. The clerk should prepare the machine. Senior Senator from the 17th, how does the Senator from Jefferson vote?
Thank you, Mr. President. The senator from Jefferson votes yea.
Has every member voted? Has every member voted? If so, the clerk close the machine and ascertain the results on this question. 34 yeas, 0 nays, 0 absent, not voting. More than a majority of those present and voting having voted in the affirmative, I declare the bill passed. The clerk will communicate the actions of the Senate to the House.
Engrossed committee substitute for Senate Bill 453, establishing uniform requirements for restrictive employment agreements.
Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. I request unanimous consent for the bill to be moved to the Committee on Rules.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. Senior Senator from the 17th.
President, request unanimous consent to return to the second order of business.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. In the rear chamber, I've noticed we have a couple visitors. One is Allison Bibby with Mark Good. Mark is a founder of a new company that he's bringing here to West Virginia called Blockchain Power. They already have a site in northern West Virginia with possibly additional sites in southern West Virginia. Very, very interesting and fascinating new company that's dealing with Bitcoin mining. If you wouldn't mind standing, let's give you a warm welcome.
Further introduction, Senator from Harrison.
Thank you, Mr. President. On behalf of my junior senator from the 12th and you, sir, let's take a second to welcome Bob and Nellie Osborne. You all will think we escape in this day and time of people watch this, but Bob and Nellie are our AARP representatives, and they're listening to us on live streaming, so make them feel welcome from a distance.
Senator from Cabell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have noticed that one of on behalf of the senior senator of the 5th, I've noticed one of our preeminent constituents is with us today in the President's Gallery. That is our curator of the Department of Arts, Culture, and History, Mr. Randall Reed Smith. Please stand and be welcome.
Are there further introductions? Bills on second reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 138 relating to Board of Medicine composition. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, sir. Senator Maroney moved to amend the bill on page 1, section 5, line 12 by striking out 15 and inserting in lieu thereof 14.
Is there discussion? Senator from Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. As mentioned, as the amendment was just read, all this is a technical correction. The words in the bill were changed, but the number was not. So this just makes the bill, the intent of the bill to be 14 members as it was supposed to be. I urge adoption.
Is there further discussion? If not, the question before the Senate is the adoption of the amendment offered by the Senator from Marshall. All those in favor will say aye. Aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 227 requiring county boards of education and county superintendents to comply with instructions of State Board of Education. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 267 relating to transportation of students in county board-owned and insured vehicles. Second reading of the bill.
Are there amendments to the bill?
Yes, sir. Senator Weld moved to amend the bill on page 3, section 13, line 58.
Senator Brooke.
Thank you, Mr. President. Request unanimous consent to explain the amendment in lieu of having it read.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. Senator from Brooke.
Thank you, Mr. President. When we had this bill up in the Education Committee, I'm not a member of that esteemed committee, but went up and took part of the proceedings. A lot of the discussion was about the number of passengers that the bill, as it was before the committee, was related to increasing it from what it is currently in law of 10 to 16. There were a lot of questions about that, and so after the committee I did some research and found that there are, it's kind of a soft ban by the federal government on 15 passenger vans, strict limitations on the equipment that they have to have and so on. And so that's not really where my intent of the bill and what I really wanted to accomplish here. So what my amendment does is that it takes it back, and the members will note, several times from 16 passengers in what was the comm sub to come out of the committee, excuse me, taking it back now to the 10, which has been in current law for quite some time, I think 30 to 40 years almost. So it replaces 16 in a couple of spots going back to 10, and also closed a loophole with adults being able to give permission for their student to ride with a parent, because right now it just says in writing by the parent, but this amendment also inserts the words or guardian in there. And so I'm happy to answer any questions, and I urge adoption of the amendment.
Is there discussion? Senator from Monongalia.
The gentleman yield.
Will the senator yield? The senator yields.
Thank you, Senator. Just a real quick clarification in regards to the notification, the written notification. Is this information stored somewhere with the Board of Education, the particular school that's involved?
So this doesn't address that, but I'm not creating something new. Parents being able to give rides to kids is something that has been in code for quite some time. I was just clarifying it by putting it in writing, which it hadn't been before, or at least a requirement that it be in writing, but then also including guardians as somebody who could transport or get permission. So it certainly would be within, I think, the purview of the Department of Education if they wanted to, or a local board to keep that on file if they wish to.
As a follow, is there a rules mechanism they have to come back with some of the kind of rules to implement this later on?
Well, they would have to change. So that right now there are rules that would have to be changed if this bill were to become law, in particular to the amendment, or what we would be changing in paragraph 4 there under subsection F. So they would have to change that rule in respect to that, but they could also make a change to change their current practice now if they so choose.
Thank you, Senator. Thank you, Mr. President.
Is there further discussion? If not, the question is on adoption of the amendment offered by the senator from Brooke. All those in favor will say aye. Those opposed, Say no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare the amendment adopted. Are there further amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
The bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading.
Senate Bill 492 relating to electronic collection of tolls. Second reading of the bill.
Thank you. Are there amendments to the bill?
No, sir.
Bill will be engrossed and advanced to third reading. Bills on first reading.
Engrossed committee substitute for House Bill 4067 to make certain agency reports electronic or eliminating certain agency reports altogether. First reading of the bill.
Bill be advanced. Introduction of guest. Remarks by members. Senator from Greenbrier.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to take a minute to say thank you. I think we forget to do that sometimes, and I want to say thank you today. I was talking to a buddy recently over the weekend who's in law enforcement, and he said something that really made me stop and think for a moment. He said, you know, telework doesn't exist in our world. We had to keep working and show up every day throughout the pandemic, and we're still doing that each and every day. And I thought about that for a minute. That really made an impact on me. If you look at the most recent data from the FBI, violence against law enforcement is up significantly over the last couple of years. Back in 2020, it was up about 30%. It was up 50% last year. I think we are very fortunate to live in a state where the rate of crime is relatively low. At the same time, I think our law enforcement officials face tremendous pressures each and every day. And so there's a handout that I've placed on everyone's desk with a little bit more information. I'd invite you to read when you have a chance. You know, we know these issues very well. We know that pay lags. We know that lags at the state level, at the county sheriff's level, at the municipal trooper level. We know that the current workforce in law enforcement is aging, with as much to a quarter, for example, of the state police being eligible for retirement in the next 5 years. We know the work is dangerous. I shared those stats before. I think we also maybe lose sight of how difficult the work is, and that's one reason I wanted to stand up to say thank you today. The state police monitors sex offenders. They run the forensic lab, which is a nationally accredited, respected lab. They're on call to deploy on a large scale and in terms of if there's civil unrest or if there's a natural disaster, which unfortunately we face a number of natural disasters here in West Virginia. It's very difficult work. So, Mr. President, I rise to say thank you. I know we all as a body are grateful for the work that our law enforcement officials do. And there are members on both sides of the aisle who have good bills that try and do something about this. You know we need to increase pay, and we know this is a nuanced issue. It's a difficult issue because we can only affect trooper pay. There's also sheriff's deputy pay, municipal police pay. But we need to do what we can. We need to be creative. For example, like when we were creative with the multiplier for troopers, we need to be creative with the multiplier for sheriff's deputies as well. At the end of the day, and this is why I wanted to stand and say thank you, we know that none of these folks get in it for the money. Nobody gets into this kind of work because they want to become wealthy. It just doesn't work that way. They get in it because of a sense of duty. And so perhaps the most important thing we can do is respect and appreciate that duty and find opportunities when we can to be supportive. So thank you, Mr. President.
Further remarks. Junior Senator from the 8th.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. I ask unanimous consent that the comments made by the Senator from Greenbrier be published in the appendix of the Journal.
Is there objection? Chair hears none. So ordered. Further remarks. Miscellaneous business. Senior Senator from the 17th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Subject to announcements, I move the Senate stand adjourned until tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Are there announcements? Senior Senator from the 4th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Finance will meet today at 3 p.m. in room 451M. We'll have the Department of Homeland Security doing their budget hearing. Thank you.
Senator from Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on the Judiciary will meet also today at 3 o'clock p.m. in the Judiciary Committee Room 208, West Wing.
Senior Senator from the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Government Organization will be meeting today at 2 p.m. in room 208 West. The agenda has been posted.
Senator from Marshall.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Health will meet today at 1 p.m. in 451M.
Senator from Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Energy will meet today at 1 o'clock in 208 West, and the agenda has been posted.
Senator from Raleigh.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Committee on Education will meet today at 2 p.m. in room 451M, and Workforce Committee will meet tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. in room 208 West.
Are there other announcements? If not, the question before the Senate is the Senate stand adjourned until 11 a.m. tomorrow. All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. The ayes appear to have it. The ayes do have it. I declare us adjourned till 11 a.m. tomorrow.
House will please come to order. Those persons not having privilege of the floor will please vacate the chamber. Members and guests in the galleries will please rise as we are led in prayer today by the lady from the 24th, Douglas Mazzocchi.
Good morning, you all. Talking with the Father this morning, and I hear this is not a business, it's a family affair. We are a big family. We affect families' lives, individuals' lives. People depend on us, what we do. And we have to do a huge job here, so let us pray. Father, we want to be worthy that you talk to us. We want to follow your law. You paid the price for us to be in your family. Father, we all should be learning every day more to be like you. Because you say in Ephesians 5:1, be imitators of Christ and live a life of love. Father, we need uplifting today. Please raise us above the pity and petty problems and let us take care of the family affairs you called us to deal with love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, godliness, gentleness, and self-control. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Members and guests will please remain standing as we are led in the Pledge of Allegiance today by the gentleman to 32nd, Douglas Haynes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Please join me in reciting the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All members and guests may be seated. Reading of the Journal.
Journal of the House of Delegates, Monday, January 31st, 2022.
Lady Third, Douglas Storch.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent the further reading of the journal be dispensed with and it be approved as having been read.
The lady Third, Douglas Storch, asks unanimous consent that the further reading of the journal be dispensed with and that it be approved as having been read. Are there objections? There are no objections. Introductions. Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Our doctor of the day is Dr. John Apgar from Marshall University, and a second doctor of the day has joined us in the gallery. Hunter Patch Adams is an American physician, comedian, social activist, clown, and author. Patch was born in Washington, D.C. His father was an Army officer, and his family spent many years in Europe before returning to the U.S. and settling in Virginia. Patch began his medical career at GW University, and he completed pre-med coursework and earned his doctorate of medicine degree at Virginia Commonwealth University. The 1998 film Patch Adams, starring Robin Williams, was based on his life and his views on medicine. Patch founded the Gesundheit Institute in 1971 with a group of friends. The Hillsborough, West Virginia campus has over 300 acres. The Institute was a pilot hospital model, an alternative to the traditional healthcare system and services. Thousands of patients were served over the 12 years that it operated. Today, several buildings have been built on the campus, but Patch's dream is to build a hospital or health care center on site. The Institute has been part of the West Virginia community for 50 years. Finally, Patch was awarded the Peace Abbey Courage of Conscience Award in '97. More recently, he was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2021. Each year, he organizes volunteers from around the world to travel to various countries where they dress as clowns to bring humor to orphans, patients, and other people. He has performed in more than 70 countries and has spoken at nearly 100 medical schools in the U.S. and around the world. He travels 200 to 300 days a year and personally answers each of the letters he receives. If he could please stand in the West Gallery, and we could make him and his assistants, Edna Primrose and Derek Busby, welcome.
Gentleman the 7th, Doug Barnhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Paging with us today from Pleasants County Middle School, we have Abigail Metz, and she is joined today by her mother, Betsy Metz, and I would ask them to please stand and ask the House to give them a warm West Virginia welcome.
Gentleman the 66, Doug Espinosa.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the West Gallery, we have representatives of the West Virginia Association of Realtors Leadership Class of 2022. As I call your name, if you please stand, we have Tammy Hess, Josh White, Hope Cunningham, Jake Tubert, Casey Quinlan, Todd Conley, Sheena Ritter, Kara Thomas, Vera Sansalone, Jeff Merrifield, Donnie Smith, and Brian McCommon. Would the House please make them welcome?
Leading the 41st, Doug Tully.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning, friends. I have a very special guest in the West Gallery today. I would like to introduce the 2022 Miss West Virginia Association and Fairs and Festivals Queen, Miss Brenna Groves. Brenna is the reigning Miss Nicholas County Potato Festival Queen, and she has also held the title of 2015 Nicholas County Potato Festival Teen Queen. Brenna is a 2019 graduate of Nicholas County High School and is presently a junior at West Virginia University, majoring in human nutrition and foods. Brenna resides in Canvas, West Virginia with her parents, Sean and Angel Groves, and she also has 3 siblings. If my House family would give Brenna and her mother a warm House welcome, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Gentleman the 31st, Doug Tony.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I have an honor of having students here from Youth and Government from Raleigh County representing Shady Park, Independence, Beckley Stratton, and Trap Hill Middle School. They're in the North Gallery with chaperones Chris and Heather Arbogast. If they would all stand and the House make them feel welcome.
Gentleman the 13th, Doug Penson.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Joining us in one of our galleries is former Delegate Jeff Pack, current Commissioner of the Bureau of Social Services. If my House colleagues could stand and please make him feel welcome.
Gentleman 17th, Doug Lovejoy.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On behalf of our colleague from District 18 who couldn't be with us today, he has some very special pages from the village of Barbersville Elementary, and I'll ask them to each stand, and then we'll make them feel welcome. Bethel Solomon and Bethel's mother, Yetnayet Gebra Dingle. We have Holden Sigmund and his mother, Brittany Sigmund, and Isaiah Bokel and his mother, Sarah Bokel. If they'd all stand, and House, please make them feel welcome.
Gentleman 25th, Doug Painter.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to welcome 23 students from Wyoming County that are here for participating in Youth and Government Day. They're chaperoned by Lauren Manning, Lisa Collins, Gwen Lyons, and Jeremy Warwick. If they're here, let's stand and give them a big house welcome.
Gentleman the 50th, Doug Garcia.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Here in the West Gallery today, we have several students from West Virginia University's College of Law, specifically from the Veterans Advocacy Clinic. And
These individuals, if they'd stand: Zach Ramey, Jeremy Maines, Abigail Harmon, Anthony Caldera, Justin Wilson, Brandon Chin, and their director, Jed Knowlton. If the House will make them feel welcome.
The gentleman to 67th, Doyle.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the West Gallery, I would like to introduce a former member, one of my old sidekicks from Jefferson County, Tiffany Lawrence, if she would stand.
Are there further introductions? Reports of standing committees.
Your Committee on Technology and Infrastructure has had under consideration House Bill 4064, allowing antique car license plates for cars over 10,000 pounds, and House Bill 4082 requires state police to provide multiple sets of licenses, and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass, but that they first be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
The report to be received. Those bills will be referred to the Committee on Government Organization.
Your Committee on Technology and Infrastructure has had under consideration House Bill 4116, authorizing the Office of Technology to promulgate a legislative rule relating to Chief Information Officer review, and House Bill 4117, authorizing the Office of Technology to promulgate a legislative rule relating to cyber reporting, and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass, but that they first be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
The report to be received. Those bills will be referred to the Committee on the Judiciary.
Your Committee on Education has had under consideration House Bill 4391 relating generally to school nurses, and reports the same back with the recommendation that it do pass, but that it first be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Report to be received, and that bill will be referred to the Committee on Finance.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 3043 relating to transport of persons accused of being mentally ill to mental health related hearings, House Bill 4296 to revise outdated provisions within Chapter 23 of the West Virginia Code which pertains to workers' compensation, Senate Bill 435 awarding service weapon to retiree from Division of Protective Services, committee substitute for Senate Bill 437 providing for early discharge of parolees, and committee substitute for Senate Bill 449 relating to nonviolent offense parole program, and reports the same back with the recommendation that they each do pass.
That report will be received pursuant to House Rule 80. House Bill 3043 will be referred to the Committee on Finance. All other bills will be placed on the counter. Next report.
Your Committee on the Judiciary has had under consideration House Bill 4003 relating generally to commercial benefit of substances removed from waters of the state by treatment of mine drainage, and reports back a committee substitute therefore with the recommendation that the committee substitute do pass.
That report will be received. Are there further standing committee reports, select committee reports, executive messages, Senate messages?
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 151 creating license plate recognizing linemen.
The message will be received. That bill will be referred to the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure, then the Committee on Government Organization.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 192, establishing Civil Air Patrol license plate.
That message will be received. The bill will be referred to the Committee on Technology and Infrastructure, then the Committee on Government Organization.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 261, requiring video cameras in certain special education classrooms.
The message will be received. That bill will be referred to the Committee on Education, then the Committee on Finance.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 279, authorizing DEP to promulgate legislative rules.
The message will be received, and that bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary.
Committee substitute for Senate Bill 441, providing confidentiality of video and other records of correctional juvenile facilities.
The message will be received, and that bill will be referred to the Committee on Judiciary. Are there further Senate messages? If not, resolutions.
House Concurrent Resolution 39, Donald L. Stuckey Memorial Bridge.
Laid in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and that each resolution be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated on the delegate console system.
Laid in the 49th, ask unanimous consent that the further reading of resolutions introduced be dispensed with, and that each resolution be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the delegate console system. Are there objections? There are no objections. Motions? Bills introduced.
House Bill 4011, establishing the Anti-Stereotyping Act.
Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I ask unanimous consent that the further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with and that each bill be considered as formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as indicated in the delegate console system.
The lady from the 49th asks unanimous consent that the further reading of bills introduced be dispensed with and that each bill be considered as having been formally introduced and referred to the appropriate committees as shown on the delegate console system. Are there objections? There are no objections. Unfinished business. Bills on third reading.
Senate Bill 244, relating to appointment of judges to Intermediate Court of Appeals.
Question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman, 30 seconds to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill simply corrects a typographical error in that the creation of the Intermediate Court of Appeals had the word elected as to the initial judges when it should have stated selected. It also makes the bill applied retrospectively to December 27, 2021. That is an explanation, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
Question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 86 ayes, 3 nays, and 11 members absent. Majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Senate Bill 244, relating to appointment of judges to Intermediate Court of Appeals.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the bill take effect from passage.
The question is the lady's motion that the bill take effect from passage. Those in favor of the motion will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 89 ayes, 0 nays, and 11 members absent. 2/3 of the members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill effective from passage. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4110, relating to staffing levels at multi-county vocational centers.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman 27th, Delegate Ellington, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill deals with multi-county vocational centers and their fiscal agent counties. Currently, there are 7 multi-county centers in the state, each with 2 to 4 participating counties, and the county where they are located serves as the fiscal agent. However, they are governed by an administrative council that is made up of a superintendent and a board member from the participating counties and are not under the control of the fiscal agent county. As a fiscal agent county, the student enrollment, personnel, and other school aid formula related to allowances of the multi-county center are allocated to the fiscal agent county to generate the necessary state aid. In step 1 of the formula, the allowance for professional educators, student enrollment determines the number of professional educator positions fundable by the state and requires that a minimum percentage of those employed must be professional instructional personnel. A county board that does not establish and maintain this minimum ratio suffers a pro rata reduction in its allowance. This bill provides that if the reason that this minimum ratio is not met is due to the staffing levels at the multi-county center, the fiscal agent county will not suffer this penalty. Currently, there is one multi-vocational center that this affects, and it's in the amount of about $19,000. So this would just waive that. Mr. Speaker, I would urge passage of the bill.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 89 ayes, 0 nays, and 11 members absent. Majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4110, relating to staffing levels at multi-county vocational centers.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4286, relating to exempting persons employed as attorneys from the civil service system.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman to 29th to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of House Bill 4286 is to exempt employees employed as attorneys from the civil service system from July 1st, 2022 forward. That is the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage of the bill will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 72 ayes, 17 nays, and 11 members absent. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares the bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4286, relating to exempting persons employed as attorneys from the civil service system.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
House Bill 4312, extending the option of electronic absentee ballot transmission to first responders in certain emergency circumstances.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman to 35th to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of the bill is to allow first responders to vote by electronic absentee ballot in certain emergency situations. The bill adds language defining a qualified first responder. It then provides that any qualified first responder called away on duty to respond to an emergency outside the voter's county of residence, which call prevents the voter from participating in an election by in-person and mail-in absentee voting, may utilize the electronic absentee voting. Mr. Speaker, that's a summarization of the bill. I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 89 ayes, 0 nays, and 11 members absent. Majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
House Bill 4312, extending the option of electronic absentee ballot transmission to first responders in certain emergency circumstances.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4333, relating to the sunset of the Board of Hearing Aid Dealers and Fitters.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman to 29th to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The purpose of this bill is to sunset the Board of Hearing Aid Dealers and Fitters. Hearing aids are going to be expanded to allow over-the-counter sales to people who need one. This will help open competition in the area and lower costs for consumers. That's the bill, Mr. Speaker, and I urge passage.
The question for the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 89 ayes, 0 nays, and 11 members absent. A majority of members voting in the affirmative. The chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4333, relating to the sunset of the Board of Hearing Aid Dealers and Fitters.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, then the title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Next bill on third reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4360, relating to West Virginia Invest Grant Program Community Service Requirements.
Are there objections to having the bill explained in lieu of having it read? No objections are heard. Gentleman 27th, Delegate Ellington, to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This committee substitute provides a waiver for the community service requirements in the West Virginia Invest Grant Program if the recipient is a member of the Armed Forces of the United States or a member of the West Virginia National Guard during the enrollment period. The committee substitute further provides that a recipient who is required to repay any of the amount of the grant award received due to a failure to meet the community service eligibility requirements and was a member of the Armed Forces of the United States or a member of the West Virginia National Guard during their time of study shall be refunded this amount. We're only currently aware of one individual that may have had this applied to them. So, Mr. Speaker, that's the bill, and I urge passage.
The question before the House is, shall the bill pass? Is there debate on the bill? If not, those in favor of passage will please vote aye. Those opposed will please vote no. The clerk will prepare the machine. Has every member voted? If so, the clerk will close the machine and ascertain the result on that question. There were 89 ayes, 0 nays, and 11 members absent. Majority of members having voted in the affirmative, the chair declares that bill passed. The clerk will please report the title.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4360 relating to West Virginia Invest Grant Program Community Service Requirement.
Are there amendments to the title? If not, title as read by the clerk will be and remain the title of the bill. The clerk will please communicate the action of the House to the Senate. Are there further bills on third reading? If not, bills on second reading, bills on first reading.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4111 relating to the prescriptive authority of advanced practice registered nurses.
Bill will be advanced.
Committee substitute for House Bill 4311 creating criminal penalties for illegal voting activity.
Bill will be advanced. Are there further bills on first reading? If not, leaves of absence. Lady from the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For our colleagues, Delegates Booth, Clark, Conley, Cooper, Fleischhauer, D. Jeffries, Kessinger, Maynard, Walmsley, Williams, Worrell.
Are there objections to leaves being granted? No objections are heard. Leaves of absence shall be granted. Introductions. Gentleman 16th, Doug Linville.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In addition to a number of great months, today is the first day of American Heart Month. And in the North Gallery, we have Shelby Lee Hill of Shelby Heart Strong, and she has struggled with heart conditions throughout her life and is a survivor. She's also been up here interning for me so far this session. And if she would stand, if the House would please make her feel welcome.
Are there other introductions? If not, miscellaneous business. Lady in the 49th.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move, subject to announcements, the House adjourn until 11 a.m. Wednesday, February 2nd.
Are there announcements? Gentleman 32nd, Doug Fast.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Judiciary will meet tomorrow afternoon, 3 p.m. in the committee meeting room. The agenda will be posted.
Gentleman 51st, Doug Statler.
Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Education will meet tomorrow, Wednesday, February the 2nd at 3 p.m. in the Education Committee room. The agenda will be posted. The Democratic members will caucus with the chair at 10:30 a.m. and the Republicans are asked to caucus with the chair after the floor session.
Gentleman 17th, Doug Rohrbach.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Health and Human Resources will meet today at 2:30 in the East Wing Conference Room. The Republican members will caucus in the committee room at 2 o'clock. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman 10th, Doug Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good morning. Your Committee on Energy and Manufacturing will meet today at 2 p.m. in Judiciary Committee room. The agenda is posted.
Gentleman 54th, Doug Hott.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Banking and Insurance will meet tomorrow, February the 2nd at 9 a.m. in the House Finance room, and the agenda is posted.
Lady from 38, Doug Graves.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Republicans will caucus today in this chamber at 1 p.m. Major committee chairs are requested to please attend.
Gentleman from the 46th, Doug Burkhammer.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Faith First Caucus will meet at 9:45 tomorrow in the Governor's Conference Room. Hope you can join us. Thank you.
Gentleman 44th, Doug Hanna.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Prevention and Treatment of Substance Abuse will meet tomorrow, Wednesday, February 2nd at 9:30 in the Committee on Education. Thank you.
Gentleman from the 15th, Doug Foster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Government Organization will meet tomorrow at 3 p.m. in the Government Organization Committee room, and the agenda will be posted.
The gentleman from the 45th, Doug Martin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Political Subdivisions will meet tomorrow morning, 9:30 a.m. in the House Judiciary Room. Thank you. The agenda will be posted.
The gentleman to 7th, Dr. Barnhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Workforce Development will meet tomorrow, Wednesday, at 1 p.m. in the Government Organization Committee Room, and the agenda will be posted. Additionally, Republican members will caucus in Chairman Zeteslo's office tomorrow before the meeting at 12:45, room 203 in the East Wing. Thank you.
The gentleman to 48th, Dr. Riley.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Fire Departments and Emergency Medical Services will meet tomorrow at 1 p.m. in the House Education Committee Room. Please bring your computers, and the agenda is posted.
The gentleman to 3rd, Dr. Fluharty.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Democrats will caucus immediately following floor session in Gov.org, and lunch will be provided.
The gentleman to 37th, Dr. Pushkin.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Democratic members of the Committee on Health and Human Resources will caucus in my office at 1:45.
Are there further announcements? If not, the question before the House is the motion that the House stand adjourned at 11 a.m. tomorrow. Those in favor of the motion will please say aye. Those opposed will please say no. The ayes have it. The motion is adopted. The House is adjourned at 11 a.m. tomorrow.